Hey everybody, Adam Savage in my cave with Don Bies. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm really good. In the annals of science fiction weapons, I think it's pretty axiomatic that all the best weapons belonged to Harrison Ford in whatever science fiction movie he's in.
That's true.
But we have here Han Solo's sidearm,
Mm-hmm.
the DL-44.
Yes.
Sure. This is funny too because we run into Uber fans all the time. People with eyes on the things that we have made, that they can see details that we don't parse. Am I right?
Yes. When I worked at the archives, I would have so many people like pick up a lightsaber or something. It's like, this isn't it, is it?
Right? Because
it's
up close, it's kind of crunchy.
Yeah, it's a lightsaber, maybe not, but there's other ones. It's like, wow, that's the prop, I remember the first time I met this one fan from Germany. We had this huge exhibition at the Marin County Fair, and he came to see the Millennium Falcon, and he specifically traveled all the way from Germany to come to this thing just to see the Millennium Falcon.
Is this Tim Ketzer?
Yes, it is.
This is how small the fandom is that you say fan from Germany, and I know exactly who you mean.
That's amazing.
I had drinks with him at the Lone Palm on that trip, I believe.
Okay, well there you go. He had all these theories about like what the different things that were on there, and asking me if next time I see Joe Johnson, like as if I see Joe Johnson all the time.
Yeah.
If the next time I see Joe Johnson, if I could, I asked him what he thought that was, what his intention was in putting that. And I'm like, I think he just thought it looked cool. There was, and that's so much of it anyway.
I asked Lauren Peterson about it at one point, interviewed him for an article I was writing. Specifically, I was asking Lauren about the aesthetic differences between the beautiful models that Colin Cantwell built and then what the team started churning out for New Hope. Because there's a great gulf between those two aesthetics. Yeah. And I feel like what the team did was took Colin Cantwell's marvelously weird spaceships that really were like pushing the idea of a spaceship in totally different directions, and then made it sort of that, again, when you see it up close,
Familiar,
you're like, that's it?
But they made it familiar. They grounded it in a reality that we can understand, I think, And I think that what is cool about Colin's models, and this was, I think, a theory that George always subscribed to, was that everything has to have a specific silhouette. That's why the X-wing is an X-wing. And you immediately identify. What that ship is or whatever. So I think he did a real good job of taking that, and then those guys took it to the next level. Really.
It's a funny one because a lot of modern science fiction movies will have a spaceship, and the thing I always point out is I can't see it.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't tell you anything about what it looks like after I've watched it in this movie because it's too complex and it doesn't give me a hamburger-like silhouette like the Millennium Falcon. Right. All right, let's talk about this thing. Did you build this when you were working at ILM?
I did not. I
at the archives, you must have handled versions of this.
Well, there was a version of the DL-44.
Yeah.
I didn't always know the names. But it was not this one. It's not this version. This is technically the New Hope version. Right.
This is my favorite. This is I made one of these for myself.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, it was mine as well. And the one we had a shorter scope. The scope was only
like
about
that
big.
tank scope.
That
and
this is silver. Right. On some of them. So I'm not quite sure if it was Han Solo's gun or it might have been Luke's gun or So we didn't have any of the real weapons at the archives.
Those were all still in London with Bapti, right?
Bapti, yeah, and they just modified, like for the Mauser, it was Frank Sinatra's gun from some movie.
That's right, I forgot about that. So the base of the DL-44 here, if that's indeed the name, is a Mauser. Yeah, a German automatic pistol.
Right, but the actual gun, that's the exact same gun, was in a Frank Sinatra movie.
Oh, that's right.
And where he had the whole stock, because this thing has this thing that comes down,
that comes back.
And then it's even the stock, I believe, you can store the gun in as a holster in it or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, that was the gun that they took and they modified and put this stuff on, and then they disassembled it and probably used it in another film somewhere.
Right.
Down the line,
and so
which
all
they did
parts,
with all the original weapons. Yeah.
So you didn't make this at the time you were at ILM. When did you build this?
This is only about 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was. I think it was a COVID project.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I tended not to build stuff at home when I was working at ILM. I
Too much like a busman's holiday.
Yeah, I wasn't that much of a maker. I always appreciated guys like you and John Goodson and everybody that would just lived and breathed this stuff. And while I enjoyed it, by no means I didn't enjoy it, but I just, it's just like, I don't have time for this. I got stuff at home I got to do.
Also, and re that, you and I and John Goodson and Dave Fogler, we all had young kids back in the late 90s, early aughts. So we were getting home and there was a lot of work still to do.
Yeah.
I remember my wife and I, we split the shifts where I would do nighttime and she would do mornings and daytime. So I would come into ILM about an hour early some mornings just to get an extra hour of model making work because, I'm up at 6 a.m. anyway. Right. And to me, that felt like keeping the wheels greased. But I totally understand the busman's holiday.
Yeah. So I didn't do it. And then like years later, I was like kind of out of the film business a little bit already. Yeah. And I'm like, I always kind of wanted one of those.
Yeah.
So I built it. And I think it's a Denix. I can't remember.
Is this the Denix base? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. And
you did a lot of work to it. You cleaned it up a lot.
Yeah, well, and I really wanted to have that real aged feeling, Yeah. So it's a little bit more than yours, perhaps.
It's definitely more than mine. Mine looks almost factory issued compared to yours.
The parts I got this from all the additional parts. I didn't make them. I cheated out and just bought them.
That's not cheating.
But it's Blastech or something like that.
There's fan companies that make these replicas of these original gun parts.
Do amazing work.
So you gave me a weathering technique. I'm curious if you talk about some of your favorite weathering techniques because I want to talk about one specifically after you might have told me a couple.
Oh, well, it just I was never a painter, and I would watch people at ILM weather, back to the whole imposter syndrome thing. And
but you were on set with R2-D2 having to beat him up.
Yeah, well, that was easy because he's just dirty, and dirty is real easy.
Okay.
So it was just a matter of like trial and error. Put umbers and burnt siennas and stuff on there and paint it. I found out that the guys in the UK used an interesting thing that was like a removable dirt for R2, which was
the hairspray.
No, it was kerosene beeswax thinned with kerosene with fuller's earth in it.
Oh, wow. And just a little bit of alcohol, pull that right back off again.
Yeah. So.
Oh, beeswax, kerosene, and fuller's earth.
Yeah. But the problem with that, the kerosene could attack.
Oh, right. The paint job underneath.
Yeah. So if it was metal or, hard metal or, something that was more hardy.
Yeah.
It wouldn't do that. But it worked for R2. And I did try it. It just ended up being stinky and everything like that. So I figured, well, I could wash off acrylic paint. So we got to on some of the stuff that we did on episode 2 and 3. We were because they had to be other R2s and stuff. All the R2s were the same R2s. They were just, we would just dress them up. So instead of painting them, which is what they did on episode 1, and they were using latex paints, so they were almost
easy to pull back
off. But what we decided to do was vinyl stickers.
Oh, wow!
So we just took vinyl and put vinyl patches and things like that. And then that was really, you just pull that right off.
And you could transfer one from one model to the next.
Well, no, they'd tear, but it was easy just to get big sheets of vinyl, put it on there, do patterns and stuff like that.
I was surprised because I worked with you on a couple of R2-D2 shots, and I know we've had this pistol here, but we're talking R2-D2. For one of the shots, where the R2 is bypassing the power coupler of the Queen ship, we made the door open and close, and you were like, just take these dollhouse hinges and Dremel a little notch in the aluminum door of R2, which is literally like one of the New Hope R2s. Yeah. It's like we were totally unsentimental about modifying these props for the shot.
Yeah, it wasn't until many years later that the things became much more precious than they actually were. I mean, I remember at one point, I think it was special edition, they were talking about doing some sort of tauntaun shot, which I don't think ever occurred. But George says, "Well, just take the armature out of the tauntaun and use it for use it in a new puppet or something because the foam latex is fun." And I'm like, "No, you can't do that.
This is priceless artifact."
But yeah, the R2s. Yeah, a lot of people didn't realize that the R2s in the prequels are the R2s from the original films for the most part.
Those pieces were really, and it's all brazed aluminum, not even TIG welded.
Yeah,
they're like pieces of jewelry to hold.
Yeah. The aluminum R2s in particular, aluminium R2s.
Sorry, aluminium. Yes, made in England. If you say aluminium,
were just works of art, you know. And what I always loved about it too is like you'd look at it, and again, it's that subconscious thing about like it's just not exactly right. You know, they use nibblers or whatever to cut the openings, but they weren't quite parallel.
Everything's a little crappy.
And it's like, okay. So then when you get this laser cut dome, it's like something's off about it, you know?
I agree. Everything's a little too clean.
Yeah. And also things never fit right, you know, so they're a little bent out or whatever.
Well, if you had two, and because we have had two R2s in front of us and you start measuring them, they don't cross-pollinate at all.
No, they're totally. And I remember I created we had the R2s at ILM, and I thought, you know, I want to make the ultimate set of blueprints for the
right.
And I created them and put them in, and the same thing. It's like, well, is it 18 1/4 inches in diameter?
18 1/8
or 18 3/16?
Yep. I've seen all of them.
Yeah, and so the fiberglass ones are different, and even the aluminum ones are all different. So yeah, and then the dome is though 18 1/4, so there's this little gap overlap, and it's like,
all right,
so crazy.
We've sat here at this table and talked about lightsabers, and we've talked about sidearms from Star Wars. Is there another prop that you may end up building for yourself in the future?
You know, I probably would be an R2.
You're going to make your own one?
Yeah, I've got some part. I've got a dome.
I think it's time.
And I've got a body, some of the body panels, but yeah, I've done enough of them.
You got to make one for yourself.
The thing is, I'm afraid it would be like the Winchester Mystery House. I would never finish it. You know, I would just constantly be.
It took me 6 years.
Yes,
to finish mine.
You finished yours first.
I did, but I had a lot more. I had some extra time. I was making the show. I had a couple weeks to myself.
Yeah. I remember that when we started that whole Romeo Delta project,
our secret R2 builders group inside ILM.
And it was like, okay, what I wanted to do. So you know when they made Empire Strikes Back, they hired a guy that's called the White Horse Toy Company with a guy named Tony Dyson,
right?
Who eventually claimed that he
claimed to be the man who built R2, which
when
is
he
a big
essentially molded the bodies, you know. And
that made me cranky too.
But what was really fascinating to me was the technique of how he created that, how he made mirrored parts that weren't mirrored, just by swapping out a part. You have a left and right, like the arm details and stuff like that. And so I was like, when I was talking to you and the others that were involved, I said, I really want to do it like the right way. And that fell apart.
Yeah, there is no such thing. There's no such thing.
It fell apart. I think I built the foot pattern, and I don't know who did the body.
That group of us, 5 or 6 of us making our own R2s, we were a rarity at ILM of people being interested in possessing pieces of this franchise for ourselves, and very clearly we weren't like taking them from the franchise. We were just very interested.
That was a big thing of it too. Is like we can't mold off of this.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that was an ethos, and that was like making sure we didn't get fired too.
That was
But like, I was surprised when I got to ILM. Like, not many people, like a lot of my colleagues up there, a lot of our colleagues, it was just a job. They weren't romantic about the stuff they were making at all.
Right. Well, you know, like I was saying, that you kind of had to hide your fandom, at least when I started. I think by the time you came along and everything, they were, you know, you guys couldn't contain it. You know? and it was actually kind of refreshing to see. At the same time, it's like, damn it, I wish I could have been like that. You know?
Exactly.
So there was a bit of frustration, but there was this handful of guys that did, and sadly, unfortunately, they were guys. I mean, initially, some of the women didn't come along till later, but they were creating these iconic pieces, and they knew it was cool, because of what they created. But at the same time, it wasn't their life, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we talked about Ira Keeler. He never saw any of the movies he worked on.
Ira Keeler is this amazing sculptor, and if you, it's Daylight, right? He's doing the tunnel shots from Daylight, where he made all the bodies for the cars in there.
Well,
and
most
Mission
famously,
Impossible.
he did the DeLorean body.
Right.
He sculpted the body.
He would sit there with this little finger plane from a little Craftsman finger plane that he'd modified, and he'd just be doing this with a piece of basswood. And after like a week, there'd be a perfect Citroen body.
Yeah. He would laminate a bunch of, I think, jet what was the word? There's a wood that he.
Is it particular? Oh, okay.
It's a funny name, but anyway, he would laminate them together perfectly. And then, with just hand tools. And I mean, he'd spend weeks at it.
I specifically remember that he chose his desk in a spot so that he had some shavings and he could put them here and look like he was looking at a drawing, but in fact, he was napping.
Yeah. And when you could, he had a pipe. He would smoke with a pipe.
That's before my time. There were no pipes when I got there.
Yeah, I remember on Galaxy Quest, he was going to sculpt the wings of their ship.
Oh right, yeah, I can't remember the name, but yes.
But he was gonna those semi-curved wings,
nacelles.
And Brian Dewey got the CNC machine out, and like in 3 days had them carved out of foam or whatever they were. Ira would have taken 6 weeks to do that.
I just talking about fandom within a film crew. I want to tell you, when I got there, I definitely was clear that my being enthusiastic was newly accepted. But now, as I travel to film sets around the world, I'm finding more and more supervisors who know a fan is who you want. Yeah. When our friends at FBFX needed to make an actual clone trooper costume, they hired a cosplayer who had already built a dozen of them.
Yeah.
And I love that the industry now understands. The industry and the fandom have sort of met on the same plane.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think it is true that you do need. They bring another element to it, that little extra secret sauce,
a little bit of depth and a love of the history
you wouldn't get otherwise. I remember the Vader helmet that I had made for the end of Revenge of the Sith. There was this debate on how it should split, because in Jedi it splits. It has there's the straw thing, and then another ones that go up here, and it split right above on the above one, and they had a animatic, because George had animatics for everything, and they had it split. I think at the top, the whole top came off.
Oh, okay.
And when I got the gig to do the thing, I'm watching the animatic, and I said to the effects supervisor who was watching it with me, I says, "That's wrong." And he goes, "Well, but George said it's okay." I said, "Well, but it's wrong." And he said, "Well, George, approved this animatic." I said, I know. I said, "But George doesn't always know."
Yeah.
I said, "But if you do it like that, the fans will hate it.
They're going to go nuts."
And he's like, "Well, and so I said, can you just do me a favor? Next time you have a meeting with George, can you point that out? Say I said it." Because George knew me.
He knew you're
and
that's awesome.
He's like, "All right." So apparently he did. A few days later, he came back, and he says, the word from George is yes, like Don said, just like it is in the animatic. I was like, "No." And so I went and I collected a whole bunch of photographs of how the original one split. And I said, I wasn't going to do it. No matter what they would tell, I would have still done it the right way.
You're not going to do it wrong.
Yeah. And so that's when a fan came in handy. So,
dude, that is awesome. I love that story. Thank you so much for talking about this stuff, man. I really appreciate it.
It's been fun.